A big hello from the Smart Hub. We're doing our HubLive event for the week. We missed last week as it was a public holiday, but we're back again today. And we are talking about money. Or as Marni just said, we're saying money talks. And we'll get into that very exciting topic of money in a little bit. But first, let me introduce you to our amazing guest today, Marni McGrath from Evans & Edwards.
Thanks,
Hello,
Elize.
Marni. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm really well, thank you.
Yeah, no, very good to be down here again and talking about money, which is always very interesting.
Yeah, because you're an accountant, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So you work with reporting on money every day.
Yes, I think people have this imaginary perception that we deal with money and there's big bags of it that you might be out the back counting, but no, you're really dealing with it on paper. So.
Oh, really? That's disappointing. No bags of money in the back office.
No bags of gold.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
No, I think one of the interesting things about being an accountant is that you get the picture of the business, but in numbers,
yes,
on paper or on the computer now, I suppose.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we're very much on the computer now, but yeah, no, you do tend to see, and it tells a story to you when you're looking at the numbers on the pieces of paper, and you have to try and remember. And sometimes when you're looking at those numbers, that they are actually really are money, and it represents that. So yeah,
that's an interesting one. So just before we get into the topic of talking about money, we're coming up to another long weekend.
I know, how exciting! And it's the last one for a while.
Good.
I've been told we've got
really?
the show holiday in June, but that's a Thursday, so we really probably shouldn't be taking an extra long weekend then. But yeah, no, it'd be good. Yeah, hopefully. Do
you have something nice planned for our last long weekend?
Hoping to go camping.
The weather.
It might be. Well, we're going, whether or not we're in the rain or not.
Okay.
So,
Where are you going?
We're going up to Clairview, just a couple of hours north towards Mackay. So nice little spot. I've never been there and always driven past and said, yep, it looks like a nice spot. So we're going up there with some family. Should be nice, yeah.
That's so awesome, awesome.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into our HubLive. So as you all know, the reason why we're doing these HubLives is to chat through all the different elements of small to medium enterprise, or just being in business in general, and you'll be familiar with our little diagram here, and then also talking about all these elements, but also looking at how we can incorporate technology to make it easier, right? So we've done marketing, we've done sales, we've done service and product delivery, and we spoke to Chris Harris a couple of weeks ago about financial management, and today, as I said, I'm here with Marni talking about money. Hello Damien, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us. Really, really love that you're on our HubLive talking about money. So, money, Marni, talk to us about what is money? What's the concept of money?
I guess it's probably cliche to say that money makes the world go round, but it really, really does. And I think from a business perspective, it's so important that you are on top of your money and your cash flow, because right from your very startup, you need to have some money to be able to start the ball rolling effectively. And that's where it becomes really important to get that flow starting for your business, and by putting maybe money in yourself, or maybe it's a loan from the bank or something like that, so that you can actually say, I've got something to start with. And from there, it's just so important to be able to understand where the money's coming from. So it can be yourself, it can be the bank, and hopefully it's your customers,
yes,
and that they're paying you when they should be paying you, so that we can make the wheels turn more quickly in our business. So
we had a lunch and learn here a few months ago probably, and the presenter said one of the fatal mistakes that a new business can make is to be undercapitalized, which means not to have enough money to start with. Yeah. The opposite to that is that whole idea of bootstrapping. So you begin with no money but time, and you do something, you make a sale, and you get some money in return. And then there's a third thing that I see, and I see that a lot at the Smart Hub, where people see an opportunity to get a government grant as their starting point. So what do you think is best? Do you need to start with your own money? Is it best to start with time? Is it best to start with a government grant? And I know different situations will require different. I guess give us a bit of an overview of your thoughts around that when you're starting out.
For me, as you said, it really does depend upon the circumstances. I think what's really important is that you understand how much money you're going to need in that startup. So it's really important that you're looking at that planning phase. And often it's not just your immediate startup costs, but it can be what we call, and accountants talk about, is your working capital. So it's that stuff, that money that you need to keep you going for the first month, 2 months, 3 months, and understanding how long that is. And once you've worked through that process and you've got those plans in place, then you're more able to look at it and say, and it can be a mixture of, well, I've got some of my own money that I'm prepared to put up, but I can also apply for a government grant. Or if I am going to go and seek some outside funding from a bank or something like that, then how am I going to be able to pay that back? So having that mixture of them, obviously if you can put the money in as your own, that's probably going to be the best, but yeah, there's a fairly long list of grants available as well from the government for, you know, businesses and that sort of thing. So,
that's right, there's a huge list of grants available. But Steve Baxter was here a couple of years ago when he was a chief entrepreneur, and I think he made the best grant point. He said, taking investment or getting a government grant only delays the inevitable. And the inevitable in business is that you need to sell something and take money from a customer in exchange for your goods or services. Yeah, and only this morning we had a conversation with some of the leaders of our region saying that the government, when they invest in a business, what they're finding when they're doing some of the survey and reporting is that when government puts money into a business, that business often doesn't survive beyond the first year. Yeah. And the reason is they delayed the inevitable, which is take money from a customer, and they never got around to doing that because that's the hardest bit, right?
Really, I mean, those government grants, in my view, I mean, they're great, they're there, but they really should be the cream. They should be the things that make it a little bit easier. And it's really is coming back to that planning that you've put in place up front, and you looked at your model that you had before with your business. There's a lot of things, and financial management and money is just one aspect of it. But unless you've sat down and actually worked through that process and understand how all of those bits of the puzzle fit together and what you're actually going to need, the government grant can be just a band-aid. And if it's a little bit easy sometimes for businesses or you know, to get, then they don't put in perhaps as much effort as they needed to, like you said, in terms of getting out there and getting money in from their customers, because they don't need to.
Yeah, getting the sales. So if we think about the chronological progression from start to where you go into business, you mentioned startup capital. So you put in your own money just to get yourself going, and then you need to get the flow going as quickly as possible. Then you have financial management and capital, what did you refer? Working capital, that's right, to get things going. Hey Craig, how are you? Nice to see you on HubLive. Thank you very much for joining us. Talk to us about that working capital. How does that work?
So working capital is, as I said, it's a terminology we'll use in the accounting world, but it's really important to understand as your business, particularly as you're selling things. So I'll use a product sales type business as an example. You'll sell something, and unless you're paid for it on the spot, you don't have the money. So you've had to buy in your widget, if that's what you're selling, and that's eaten away at a little bit of what you've put in or what you've already got in the bank. So then you go, that working capital is, how long does it take me to get paid? So it's looking at it and saying, it's a calculation, I guess, to say, well, we want to get paid sooner, because that means that the money's back in my bank account, and if you've done your numbers right and you work through your plan, you're actually getting in more than what should be going out. So that bank balance is building. And so that working capital is a balance of those things, and it's understanding how they interact in that way, so that we're not constantly eating into our reserves or our bank balance or our piggy bank, so to speak, and allowing and taking your eye off the ball effectively, particularly with your customer payments and that sort of thing, because generally speaking you'll find that it's the squeaky wheels that get paid first when things are a little tight. So if you're not keeping an eye on your house and your money, people will be using your money instead of giving it to you.
Yeah, so, exactly. Hey Matt, thank you so much for joining us. Damien, Craig, Matt, and if we have anyone else on the HubLive, please ask a question. If you have any questions about money and money in business or money in life in general, we have Marni McGrath from Evans and Edwards with us today, and it would be right to call you a money expert, right? I think that would be right.
That we go expert, but yes, we
you know a lot.
Yes.
So please feel free to ask any questions for Marni, and just in the comments below. And if you're on our HubLive, please like this so that we know that you're watching and we can do a call out.
Yes.
So what else is important in terms of money and business, Marni?
I think, and you mentioned that Chris spoke a couple of weeks ago as well. I think about understanding where your bank balance is, what you're expecting to come in to that bank balance and then what you're expecting to go out. So if you build on that, the only way that you're going to be able to do that is to have some up-to-date and accurate information. So it's no good, I guess, running by the seat of your pants and looking at your bank balance on your app on your phone or something like that and going, oh dear, I haven't got enough to pay, the bills this week. So you really do need to have, even if it's just some basic accounting software, that you do regularly keep up to date. Bookwork is one of the things that is not the most fun for a lot of people.
True.
But it is so terribly important if you want to keep control of your money and your cash flow in your business, is to keep those records up to date. And there's a lot of accounting programs out there that'll do the job, and it'll do the job fairly easily for you. You've got Xero, for example, that does bank feeds. So it puts a lot of the information in there for you, and then you just need to work through that.
So how hard is that to set up? So if someone is in business but they haven't yet transitioned into using a technology solution to manage or report on their finances, which one of the softwares would you recommend, and how hard is that to set up?
Look, none of them are particularly hard to set up. In terms of a recommendation, there's a number of them. A lot of the cloud-based ones are really great because it allows you to have then that easy access to your advisors or your accountants so that they can see in real time what you're working on as well and assist you through that process. I'm quite a fan of Xero because of its simplicity, but there's also QuickBooks and Reckon and MyOb and that. So I tend to say to people, if you know one, you're familiar with it, use that. If you've got friends or family that use one or are familiar with it, perhaps that's the best way to go because they'll be able to help and support. But I think whichever one you decide to use, I think talking to your accountant early and getting it set up right for your business so that you can actually get useful information out of it is probably the key. By leaving it too long, you end up with a whole pile of sometimes gobbledygook in there, and it's just useless information. So,
that makes sense. Hey Chelsea, thank you so much for joining us. We're talking about money in business, or as Marni said, money talks. So that's really important to set it up when you start out in business. So if you're a little bit into the journey of being in business and you still don't have that software set up, get onto it as a matter of urgency.
It is, it
absolutely.
Is really important.
So it's really interesting because we mentioned those three things that we mentioned a couple of weeks ago too. You mentioned them. Look at your bank balance. Know how much money you have in the bank. Know what payments are coming up. So if you have $50,000 in the bank, but you have a tax payment worth $100,000 coming up in a couple of weeks, that's a problem.
We might have to go and rattle some cages.
Exactly. And so to do that, you might have to go to your debtors. So know how much money is owed to you. You have to go to your debtors and get that finance, get the money to flow into your account. And that sounds so simple, but even to this day, I met with someone last week and I asked him those questions and he didn't know the answer. And I think the reason is people don't have it in their weekly schedule to actually sit down and check what's happening with their finances. Do you see a lot of that?
Oh, absolutely, and it's not even just in businesses that are the new or starting up. You can see it in businesses that have been established for quite a while. They'll just get slack, I guess, on their processes. The money might be flowing along nice and well, lots of money coming in, bank balance is really good, and then you hit a bit of a hurdle or a rough patch, and you've taken your eye off the ball. And so it's just really scheduling in, if you're fortunate enough to have some staff that can help you in that regard, so that it is just a very, every week, that's what we do. We sit down. And once I sit down and work through that with some of my clients, where you go, this is a simple way of looking at it and going, yes, that's my bank balance today, but what do I expect it's going to be at the end of next week and the end of the week after? And that's when you can start to see the ups and downs in the money or the bank balance, and go, well, gee, in 3 weeks' time, or as you said, 2 weeks' time, I've got a big bill coming up. What am I going to do about it? It's not going to be much use to you in 2 weeks' time when you go, oh, I'm now in a hole and I can't pay that. So you can only change what's going to happen in the future, and that's where I really am big on that planning and looking ahead to say, well, what can we do now to change what's going to happen in the future.
And with cash flow management, I think there's that rule of thumb, the further ahead you know that you're in trouble, the better. So the more lead time you have, the more control you have to fix the problem.
Well, that's right. You can't, once we're in a hole and we're $50,000 short on, the wages bill or the tax payment bill, there's not much that you can do, immediately and overnight, unless you've got a big pile of money buried in your backyard somewhere or under your mattress, which not too many people do have these days. So,
that makes sense. Hello, Maria. Thank you so much for joining us. I love seeing you here. So cash flow management is super important.
Absolutely.
And really, in essence, that cash flow management is what you mentioned before. What is the bank balance today? What is it going to be next week and the week after?
Yes.
Do you look about 2 weeks ahead, or how far in the future do you need to look?
It will depend on most businesses. I would generally, for most of my business clients, look at probably a 10 to 12 week ahead. Now, I'm less concerned often with the 8 to 12 weeks, and you might be really focusing on the first period.
Yeah.
But that tends to run with your quarterly, because a lot of small businesses, the biggest cost that they get caught out on is their quarterly tax obligations.
Yes.
So their GST, they might have 1 or 2 employees, so they're going along nicely. They're paying their employees each week, forgetting that they've kept back, or supposed to have kept back, a little bit of tax to pay. So I find that builds up really quickly over the quarter. So I do tend to like that quarterly cycle, 12 weeks or so, 12, 13 weeks. So you can start to see, well, hey, I've got to make sure I'm, squirreling away my money so that when I get to that quarterly period, and it's just as you said before, Elize, it's knowing as far out as you can what it's likely to be. Some people will get really exact with it, and I go, don't worry about that. We're doing rough numbers. We want to be close. We don't want to be exact on it. So just do it.
That's good to know. So I know that one little trick, and I'm sure many people are familiar with this already, but if you're not, this is a really good trick, is to have a separate bank account.
Yes.
For those PAYG and BAS payments, and to have put away money into that bank account every single week.
I see a lot of clients, particularly as they're first starting out, they will put aside a tax account.
Yes.
And I call them their jam jars.
Yes.
So they will have a separate bank account, and sometimes that's not even linked to their,
Yes, it's not on your internet banking.
It might be a completely separate bank. So they might bank with, a certain bank for their normal business everyday needs, and then their jam jar or their tax money account is somewhere completely different, so that the temptation isn't there to go dipping into it. And I've seen clients have anywhere up to 3 or 4 different bank accounts, because they're managing, and that's how that works best for them, to keep control of that money and just to know where things are, and it's peace of mind as well.
It is, because knowing that you have enough money to pay your bills, especially your tax bill, makes you sleep better at night, right?
Definitely.
Hey Cooper, thank you for joining us. Hop on and ask a question. Marni is great at managing money in business and in life, so if you have a question for Marni, please hop on and just type it in, and we can certainly see if we can answer that for you. So Marni, what would be your top 3 managing money or making money in business tips.
Okay, so probably slightly different in terms of making and managing money. I think in terms of making money, probably the biggest tip I could give people is to understand what their costs are, because whilst you might be selling a product or a service, if you don't understand what your costs are and you're not controlling those costs as well, there's going to be a lot less left for you at the end of the day. So I think understanding your business inputs, your costs, is really, really important in terms of making money. But in terms of managing your money, I think it really does come back to what we've said before, is knowing what you've got coming up in terms of payments going out, and really not sort of getting caught out with the big surprise ones, like we said before, with the business activity statement that might come around each quarter. So in terms of managing your money, I really just do think, having that up-to-date financial information in your accounting software is so critical to managing the money and actually just doing it. Yeah.
Okay, so if we were to summarize that, what you're saying is making and managing money boils down to having some kind of reporting software set up so that you can actually have some way to go and see what's going on in your business, right? Share that with your accountant so that we're all on the same page.
You can't make informed decisions without information, and that's really what it boils down to. You need that information. Yeah.
Secondly, and it kind of leads on from that, know what your costs are.
Yeah,
know what your costs are. There's no point selling something for $5 if it actually costs you $10 to deliver. Know your costs. And then thirdly, look ahead.
Yep.
Look ahead is plan ahead. Okay, so is that the summary of making and managing money? I would say
absolutely. It sounds overly simple, and you think, well, why aren't we all out there doing it and everything? And I think sometimes it's just the simplest things are the most important, and just focus on those.
It's kind of getting back to basics, isn't it? Hey, Randy, thank you so much for joining us. Lovely to see you here on HubLive from the Smart Hub. So I think one of the greatest challenges that prevents people from doing those basic things, scheduled. Everything. And you haven't looked at your finances, and you go in with the best intention, and then another week passed and you didn't look at your finances. So one of the top tips that I have is to actually schedule some time in your week where you are dedicating your attention to your finances. Then go to your reporting software and actually look at what's going on. Doing that alone, if you make that commitment in your business, will help you become a better business owner, or far better business owner in a short amount of time.
And it's very cliche, but it is. It's working on your business, and your finances are just as important as looking at where your customers are coming from and doing your marketing and that sort of thing. But it's often the least fun part, and which is why people do sometimes tend to not do it. And it becomes a snowball effect, and it's all just a little bit too hard then.
Yeah.
So, very, very important that it's done regularly, and scheduled time is a great way of doing that.
So Marni, you've been in business for how long? Because you're a partner.
Yes, I'm one of the partners at Evans Edwards. I just ticked over. I've worked with Tony down there for 25 years now, and I've been a part owner of the business for a long time, so about 18 years.
Wow, that's a long time.
It is. So, and we still find, that you don't know everything.
Yeah.
And so it's really, really important to, the things that we're talking about here today in terms of managing money and that sort of thing are just as important. Evans Edwards has been 39 years coming up this year that, that business has been established. We still do those basics every single week. So we sit down and we look at what our bank balance is, what we've got coming in and what we've got going out. And I think if you can really stick to those basics, it's just so important to, the long-term success of your business. And you won't get it right all of the time, but once you've started it, then you keep going with that process, and it just, as you said, schedule the time, it becomes just regular.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. So your involvement with the Smart Hub, we were just trying to work out before. Yeah. Evans Edwards has been involved for maybe a couple of years.
Yeah. So it's been really, really great to see. There's been, a lot of businesses that have started up here that you've seen sort of move on and out into the big bad world, if you like, so to speak. But it's just it's so rewarding for us, for Tony and myself, and we've got a few of our senior accountants now that are enjoying coming along and just meeting with the people down here at Smart Hub and the businesses, listening to their ideas and their enthusiasm. And it's a way that we really enjoy being able to just give back a little bit of our knowledge to help them and give them a foot up. So no, it's really great.
It's wonderful to have you in the Smart Hub and in the community, and I know that a lot of our members take a lot of value from the sessions you run. So Evans Edwards and Marni and Tony and those accountants that you referred to before come into the hub maybe once or twice a month, I would say, on average. You've hosted some lunch and learns. You're hosting another event on Tuesday, which we'll talk about in a sec. And really what you do is we ask our members, what is the topic that you'd like to hear from an accountant about? And then people nominate topics, and then you go away and you come back and we gather in a room and you help us unpack specific topics related to accountancy and business, right?
And I find that those sessions are really great, especially the member-only sessions, but also the open sessions, the lunch and learns and that we're doing next week, because people tend to be able to ask the questions and less concerned about asking a question in that environment, and they've got direct access to you to ask the question. And if they don't want to, they can always give us a call later on. And I've had that happen too, with, I just wasn't sure about asking on the day, but, and so that's always an option as well.
We are so grateful for your contribution. And really, this is all free of charge for our members. So if we just clocked the 73 members, isn't that amazing?
That's amazing.
We've grown from 2 members a couple of years ago to 73 members today. And our goal is to get to 100 by the end of the year, so we're pretty much on track and very excited about that. But anyway, if you want to become a member, we have some very affordable membership options, and access to accountants is included in your membership, so that's all free of charge. So tell us, you're coming into the hub next week to deliver one of these sessions?
So next week we're doing a lunch and learn on Tuesday, I believe it is. So the topic that this very topical at this time of year, coming into the end of June, will be tax minimisation strategies. So I won't preempt anything that we'll learn next week, but it always seems to be a very popular one, because people want to know how to save some tax. So
if you want to know how to legally pay less tax, legally pay less tax, please join us next. Is it Tuesday?
I think it's Tuesday.
Pretty sure. Yeah. Next Tuesday, and you can find more information about that on our Facebook page. Also, if you want to ask questions or have a query about how to become a member or how to register for our event, please feel free to private message us just on our Smart Hub Facebook page there. Marni, you have been amazing. Thank you so very much.
No, you're most welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to come and talk about money.
Yes, money does make the world go round.
It does, yes.
Thank you very much, and we will see you next Thursday at 1 o'clock for more HubLive. See you later.